The Demon Slaying Corp is not an official government-sanctioned organization, yet it manages to employ roughly a few hundred members spread across the country and has existed since antiquity. Now, the entire organization still needs some sort of financial support in order to function, as it provides its slayers with not only pay, but coverage of their expenses while performing their duties. Yet you may ask, where is all this money coming from? Well, it appears to all come from one place, the Ubiyoshiki clan, a exceedingly wealthy family that has been personally funding things since long before slayers could even use breathing styles. Though, how much money a year does this single clan end up spending just on employment? Or, more so, can we find out how much money a demon slayer actually makes during the story of Kimetsu no Yaiba? Now this video will contain minor visual spoilers and some information that isn't apparent in the anime, but isn't critical to the story itself. So if you want to avoid all spoilers, you have been warned. When it comes to the Demon Slaying Corp's own payment process, we actually do have a good groundwork to build off of, as thanks to the first fan book in the series, Kotoge tells us that the Mizunoto ranked demon slayers are paid roughly 20,000 yen a yearly salary, whereas the Hashira are paid whatever price they request. As well, we're told that Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu were getting paid roughly 30,000 yen for their work following the Mugen Train incident. And with that information understood, we can actually build a pretty solid roadmap to how much slayers get paid throughout the series based on the type of organization that the Demon Slaying Corp is. Though, with that being said, before we can actually begin assigning salaries, we need to understand how the Corp works exactly, as this way we can assess how much a member in a different position should be getting paid. So let's start this by taking note of the history of the Demon Slaying Corp. As the Corps was originally founded by the Ubiyoshiki clan and their hired swordsmen and samurai during the late Heian period, which makes sense, as interestingly enough, the career of samurai had actually begun to blossom around this point, as it essentially assumed the role of the country's own private military, warriors being hired by specific region lords in order to protect their specific areas. This idea also plays very well with the Demon Slaying Corp's own purpose, eventually even having their region of protection expanded out to the whole country. Yet, samurai weren't always paid in money. Instead, they were often rewarded in the form of rice, with the average samurai estimated to make roughly 30,000 kilos of rice per year. The purpose was to provide them with more than enough food to ensure that they would live comfortably for the rest of their lives as a way of thanking them for their service. And while eventually, due to the development of the Japanese military, the samurai was slowly phased out and replaced by a more Western-style military during the Meiji Restoration, their impact and practices still remained in some small form, which the same idea can be assumed about the Demon Slaying Corp, as the Ubiyoshiki's clan head seems dedicated to ensuring that his core members are paid enough money to account for any danger that they put themselves through in the line of duty so that they may live comfortable lives when they retire. Though, unlike most samurai, the slayers are assigned ranks based on their performance, skills in the field, as well as, in most cases, time spent within the Corp. Now, the ranking system is comprised of 10 normal ranks a slayer can obtain in their career, 1 special non-combat focus position, and of course a special high-ranked position that is saved for the gifted in the organization. Now, the ranks go as such: Mizunoto, Mizuno, Kanoto, Kano, Tsuchinoto, Tsuchino, Hinoto, Hino, Kinoto, Kino. And then, of course, the highest ranked obtainable position in the Corp, Hashira or Pillar. Now, these 10 ranks, not including the pillars, all have names that originate from the Kunyomi reading of the ancient calendar system called the 10 Heavenly Stems, which is a system that originates all the way back to the Shang Dynasty, with its purpose being to track the cycles of the 10 different suns, resulting in a system that had 10 days of the week. Now, the name for this was likely selected by the Slaying Corp as a way to connect themselves to the sun, which is a common motif throughout their organization, from either their Nichiren blades, or eventually how during the Sengoku period, sun-breathing would give birth to the remaining Slayer styles that made them much more effective at their job. Though the Heavenly Stems would go on to be commonly used throughout a lot of Eastern Asia as a special grading system or counting system. Now, outside of the main combat role, you also have an official non-combat rank, that being the Kakushi, who are cloaked figures that operate in the background events and clean up, assist, or even transport main slayers from place to place. In most cases, the members of the Kakushi are those from Final Selection who washed out, but survived a night or two and still wanted to help in some way. That, or retired veterans from the Corps who had to step down due to either stress or injury, that made their demon slaying activities no longer possible, though they were still physically fit and wanted to contribute. Their name comes directly from the Japanese character which their outfit is branded with, which means hidden, but can also be read as to sympathize or to pity, which can relate to their status as washouts in multiple ways. As well, their design resembles that of a bunraku puppet show performer, the ones who would often wear specially designed outfits to make them blend into the background and make the puppets the main focus, which works very well with their role in the Slaying Corp. Now, the Corps' whole ranking process, along with its samurai origins, has me believing that it functions very similar to that of Japan's own military at the time, which in part was very westernized, meaning that there is likely a partial pay increase depending on time served and ranks acquired. As well, there also appears to be some sort of option to join something like the Demon Slaying Corp Reserves, seen best with Aoi Kanzaki. A member of the Butterfly Estate, Aoi spends most of her time training or doing housework for the estate and avoids deployment. Yet, she can be conscripted by someone of a higher rank to perform demon slaying duties. Now, this military-like structure helps us to determine the natural pay increase for each rank, especially since we have the added detail that Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu all experienced a pay raise at some point during the series. As well, we know that they ascended in rank at least 3 positions. So let's look at the hard data that we have so far so that we can begin our calculations. Firstly being the starting pay of roughly every Demon Slayer, this being around 20,000 yen a year. Then of course we have, as I mentioned, those who advance 3 ranks to Kano. They get paid roughly 30,000 yen for their work. So, based on the 2 points of data we have that are useful, we can generate a rough 14.5% pay increase for every ascending rank in the Corps, which in turn results in the following estimated pay rates for all 10 ranks, though mind you, these numbers are going to look a little rough. As well, to help paint a broader picture for a more Western audience, I will also be converting this yen into USD using the exchange rate of the Taisho period, which was actually around the time that the yen was quite strong, with 1 yen being equal to around 44 cents USD. So, let's start first with the Mizunoto. They are paid 20,000 yen a year, which is equivalent to 8,800 USD. Then, Mizuno are paid 22,900 yen per year, which is the equivalent of roughly $10,000. Then, Kanoto are paid 26,222 yen, which is the equivalent to $11,540. Kano are paid, as we know, 30,000 yen, which is the equivalent of $13,200. Tsuchinoto are 34,375, which is the equivalent to 15,120. Tsuchino are paid 39,360, which is equivalent to $17,320. Hinoto are paid 45,065 yen, which converts to roughly $19,830. Hino are paid roughly 51,600 yen, which converts roughly to $22,705 USD. Kinoto are paid 59,085 yen, which converts roughly to $25,990 USD. And then, of course, the highest ranking position, Kino, gets paid roughly 67,650 yen, or roughly $29,765 USD. And while these prices might seem extremely good right now, even for modern times, as I mentioned earlier, Demon Slayers takes place during the Taisho period, which happened between 1912 and 1926. So let me adjust this pay for modern inflation. Now, I'll just be directly converting the numbers into USD this time for just simplicity's sake. These are still rough estimates, and I had to do a bit of rounding at the end to make them look a tad bit prettier, but this is pretty direct. So, right off the bat, the first rank of Demon Slayer is paid roughly the modern equivalent of $150,825. A Mizuno is paid $172,695. A Kanoto is paid $197,730. A Kano is paid $226,235. Tsuchinoto are paid roughly $259,230, while Tsuchino are paid the equivalent of $296,820. Then we reach Hinoto, which are paid $339,860, while Hino are paid $389,140. Then Kinoto are paid $445,565, while Kino are paid $500,000 a year, which I don't think I need to tell you is an absurd amount of money, especially when you factor in the fact that the Ubuyoshiki clan seems like they are able to pay their Demon Slayers individually and on time. We also know that there are around 300 members of varying ranks, and some who are even retired and still on payroll. Though, even if Ubuyoshiki's clan only had to pay 300 first-rank Slayers, they would still need a minimum of 6 million yen a year, or roughly 500,000 yen a month, to operate. Minimum. Though, given the danger involved in this job, I feel like this pay is rather adequate, if a tad bit excessive. As well, it does help explain why things like the Butterfly Estate can operate so successfully, and how those who retire can live rather luxurious lives. As well, I think most non-combat positions, no matter how much time you serve, get paid roughly the same amount as first-rank Slayers, which is more than enough to get by in the Taisho period. As, for example, a good apartment in Tokyo's rent for the year would only be about 200 yen. As well, it is arguable that the swordsmith village could be added to the payroll of the Ubuyoshiki clan, but I found nothing that I could possibly use to even get an estimate on that, and they feel more like arms dealers rather than an actual part of the organization, so they can charge roughly however much they want. And ultimately, I am actually rather shocked at how much Demon Slayers end up getting paid. And while it's possible that Gotoge might not have realized how outrageous a starting price for those two ranks would be when they added that detail to the fan book, especially when trying to look up other professions in Japan around this time, this rate blows them entirely out of the water, I think it fits that in a field where you run the risk of being arrested every day for the possession of a sword, fight immortal superhuman monsters that no one even knows exist, and every night could be your last, you definitely want your risks to be counterbalanced out by a massive reward. Though, this does lead to a funny scenario where I can almost imagine Ubuyoshiki's breathing sighs of relief when someone finally graduates to the Hashira rank, as not only do they bring a great amount of safety with their presence, but they could end up actually costing less with their blank check than they would if they were the highest ranked Slayer. Though, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing we should all remember is that if he lived to see them, Tanjiro, without a doubt, would be able to afford as many Big Macs as his little heart could desire. And honestly, what else could you ask for? Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. Every little bit helps keep this channel flowing as smoothly as it does. And if you want to spend your Demon Slayer paycheck on something, I recommend buying Shimonetta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist at buyshimonetta.com.